Welcome to Astral Projection Stories. Tonight, I have the honor of interviewing Rick from his YouTube channel, Astral Club. He's been astral projection since he was a baby, and he's gone on countless adventures and experiences. Rick, how many would you say you've been on total
Oh, geez.
astral projections?
I've counted a long time. Thousands. Thousands.
Wow. Wow. Yeah. Okay. So thousands. So there you go. This guy knows what he's doing. He knows how to get out of body. Rick, have you gotten to the point where you can just like sit down in a chair and you can just 5 minutes later you astral project? Or,
Sometimes. But it's actually easier for me just to go into a light sleep because I've programmed myself through a number of things, including self-hypnosis, to as soon as my subconscious mind starts to take over and the dreams start, that I then take over control with help of the subconscious mind because it has learned that it enjoys these experiences too. So it helps me. So generally, I'll start projecting about half an hour to 45 minutes after I go to sleep. It's just easier. The meditative route, I can do that, but it just requires a lot more concentration and quiet and
oh, Rick, that's so interesting to me because this entire time I thought your astral projections were very much in, closer to the meditative route where you sit down, well, not sit down, but you're laying down and, 5 to 10 minutes later, due to your concentration and your will, boom, you pop out. But can you explain what yours is then?
sure, Nick. By the way, I'm happy to be on Astral Projection Stories with you. Um,
Thanks.
well, I mean, I started as a kid, and my projections started from the sleep state. I didn't know about a meditative state back then. So, I mean, I logged probably 1,000 projections before I even really started meditating. So it's just easier for me. It's how I learned how to project. So that's my default. If I want to go into a meditative state and do that, that's something a little special.
So Rick, though, like, okay, that's cool. So like, do you then because there are probably some nights where you're just like, cool, I'm gonna go to sleep. I'm not interested in astral projecting tonight. But the other nights you do have to use focus and will, but it's not being activated until, like you said, 30 minutes to 40 minutes into your rest, into your sleep.
Correct. I
Oh,
mean, what happens is as my body falls asleep and becomes heavier and heavier, my subconscious mind rises like a balloon. And that's when I regain control of my consciousness while I'm in a sleep state. So my body is paralyzed and it's in the perfect position to project. And that's when I typically project. There's even times if I haven't projected for in a little while because I just didn't feel like it, I'll find myself out of my body, maybe in an old bedroom where I used to sleep back in my childhood bedroom, because my subconscious just kicks me out sometimes if I haven't done it enough. So I'm just kind of trained to a point now where it doesn't require any great force of will. All it requires is intention as I go to bed and a goal, and the rest just happens now pretty darn easily.
that's awesome. Very cool. Thanks for just shining a light on that and how it works for you.
Sure.
So, Rick, I got sidetracked there, but anyway, I just wanted to say, Rick has a channel here on YouTube called Astral Club, so you should definitely go check it out if you're into astral projection at all. But you can subscribe and support his channel; that'd be awesome. He also has a Patreon, and you can get access to early videos, and he has a Discord where you can talk to all sorts of other
We don't
people.
have a Discord yet.
Oh, you don't have a Discord? I thought you had a
No,
Discord.
we don't have a Discord, but my Patreon has a chat, so
Oh, okay.
chat quite a bit in there. So
Cool. Okay, cool. Well, there's a chat for everybody to talk and connect. And then also Rick provides one-on-one private lessons if you're interested in learning how to astral project. So, oh man, you have been on some
oh yeah,
crazy journeys. So the interviews have astonished me, and that came out of left field. with you. I wasn't expecting that at all from you. And then next thing you know, you're interviewing archangels, you're interviewing Pleiadians, you're interviewing Hecate. Did I say that right? Hecate?
It's Hakati.
Hecate. Yeah. So so that was just amazing. And then your ability to interview is also, it's like you've been doing it your entire life. Like the questions that you're asking, being able to hold your demeanor against these very powerful beings. It's just it's very impressive and very entertaining. So that's been a delight. Thank you for that.
Thank you. I'm going to be as good as you, Nick, but I try my best.
Oh yeah, good one. Thanks, Rick. Let's start with the astral wrap. Let's start with something positive here. So the astral wrap, if I don't know if you guys have seen Rick's one of Rick's latest videos, but it's about a strategy and a strategy to heal yourself in the astral when you're astral projecting. And is that right, Rick?
Yes, you can use it when you're projecting or when you're just a little bit out of coincidence with your astral body, say just floating a little bit above.
Yeah. So one thing that was really interesting about that one is you talked about how there are energies in your spirit body. What would you call it? Your ethereal form, your astral body. Is
Mhm.
that what you would call it?
They call it an astral body. Others
Yeah,
call it something else, but
yeah. So everybody has an astral body, and you can see yourself in the astral, and you can see specific, energy points on your body, and you can notice if they aren't flowing right, if they look like they are, like, help me out here. You can notice disease and sickness before it comes
well,
about.
a lot of times it'll start in the astral before it gets into the physical. Now, once the disease gets into the physical, you have to see a physical doctor because that's just the way it works. But if you can catch it when it's in the astral, generally, if you like look at a limb, for instance, you'll see that there's some murky energy, blackish, grayish. Sometimes it moves in a swirl. Sometimes it's just kind of clogged and it's just there, and you have to find a way to deal with it, to move that energy so that it doesn't dam up permanently and then leak into some sort of malady in the physical world.
So that's so interesting. So I gotta ask, have you? I mean, like, you must go into the astral all the time and check yourself out and make sure that you're healthy, right?
You would think that I would. It's just that I'm such an explorer that generally, no, I don't do that. You'd think I would. I help heal other people.
Yeah, you're always on a
There's
quest to
there's
help out
a Native
others.
American saying that you shouldn't worry or pray for yourself. That's somebody else's job. And I think that's kind of my unofficial motto, even when it comes to this kind of stuff. I mean, I prefer to use my energies to explore, to gain knowledge, and to help others when I can, and to help cure others and
Yeah,
help.
and it's not like you're astral projecting every single night.
No, I
So there,
respect every night.
yeah. So, and if it's limited on how many times you can astral project, you're probably like, okay, next time I have an opportunity, I want to go on this grand adventure, or check out this thing, instead of I want to just focus on my body and my energy
Yes, and that's
chakras or
where
whatever.
somebody suggested in the comments section because we I get some good ideas in the comments section of the
Oh
videos,
yeah.
and someone said, "Hey, could you interview X?" And I never really thought about doing that in the astral before. And then I started thinking, I wonder if I could. And that's when I started interviewing, the elementals and Hecate, a guardian angel, Anunnaki, the shadow hat man, um,
Yeah.
to name a few. It's because I just decided, let's give that a shot. Half of the time, I'm unsuccessful. I project and I have an idea, and I say, I want to go to this particular person or what have you. Half the time it's unsuccessful. I don't talk about those because you don't make an episode from an unsuccessful projection. I only talk about the successful ones. There are some that I just can't get to, and that's why, I can't do everything. I can only do the ones that I've been successful. And I get help from my guardian angel guide so that he helps at times, like to set up certain meetings that are maybe higher level or that are angelic in nature or just anything to do to kind of help me out. Others I just kind of set up myself, and you can learn an awful lot. One thing that's good is that when I was in college, I learned how to memorize things. I was on the speech team. I had to memorize three 15-minute speeches, so it helped my mind, to learn how to remember things. So when I do the interviews, I do it in such a way that it should flow like a story, because that's how I remember it, like a story. Because I can't remember 1,000 disconnected words. But if it's in the form of me asking a question, them answering, me asking a question, them answering, then I can remember pretty much of it. I don't know that I remember 100%, but I get pretty much of it.
Yeah, that's definitely a tool that's come in handy because I don't feel like I could remember that much dialogue and all the stuff that you're able to. So that's very impressive.
I don't have a choice.
Um,
I can't take notes.
yeah, yeah. So you just take notes with your mind,
Yes.
right? Yeah, that's awesome. So the healing rap, that's so cool because so what would you say to somebody that's like thinks that they could do that just in the physical using their imagination and imagining their body, being healed like that?
Best place to do that would be in a deeply meditative state. And that then you want to imagine your astral body coming a little bit out of incidence with your physical body, floating a little bit above, and then put the wrap on using your meditative state.
Yeah.
You have a good chance of being successful with that.
Hey Rick, so this is interesting. So that was so weird for me to hear that the symptoms show up in your astral body before your physical. But why in your astral body? Like there must be something happening up there that caused it. Or no, is it something you're doing in the physical that kind of is like, okay, if you stay on this path, you're going to manifest this sickness and then it starts to show up in the astral and
Came
then
first, the chicken or the egg? I'm not sure.
yeah.
I'm not sure. Perhaps you're doing something in the physical that starts to manifest in the astral.
Yeah.
And then as it grows in the astral, it becomes more of a problem in the physical. Or something happens in the physical, maybe related to or in the astral, maybe related in some way to the physical, but it manifests first in the astral. I don't know. I don't have in-depth information on that other than I've observed that I see it typically in the astral first.
But Rick, so like what's your astral body doing right now? Because you're not going off on an adventure in the astral right now. Are you that could cause some sort of injury in the astral right now? Right?
No, I'm here. My
Oh
astral
yeah, what am I talking about?
astral body is my consciousness as well. Um,
Yeah.
so, I mean, if you're astral projecting, it would be very difficult to have a conversation with someone without being pulled back to your body. Extremely difficult. Now, people who have remote viewing, that's different. You're not out of your body. You're only sending a projection of like 10% of your consciousness to another place on the physical plane. Um, but so you can talk to that person, but astral projection, if you try to talk to someone, you'll probably wake them up and
Yeah.
they'll be pulled back to their body. Now, I'm not saying there isn't some way you couldn't use maybe deep hypnosis with an extremely experienced projector, that you might be able to dance that line very gently of the person being kind of connected to two worlds at the same time. But keep in mind that the slightest interest in the physical is just going to get you pulled back.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. All right, so let's pivot to something a little less positive, and that was the video you came out with a few weeks ago. It was called the Second U.S. Civil War, 2142 to 2145.
Yeah.
So that was really interesting. Um, yeah, so just to recap, I guess, for anybody that hasn't seen that, basically, Rick traveled into the future with the intention of finding out who the future emperor of the United States is, essentially, right? Was that right, Rick?
Yes, correct.
Yeah. So next thing you know, he shows up in 2142, or I don't know exactly what year you showed up in. I guess it was 2142 around there.
41, I believe. I
Yeah.
rest as well, but that was the original year. I didn't. I mean, I was looking for conflict. When you're traveling into the future, yes, there's blackness, but sometimes if you're sensitive, you might say you have your sensors out, you can sense when there's a huge amount of turmoil, and then you can come out of that future wormhole or whatever the heck it is. And that's kind of what I did because I was traveling forth and I started feeling more and more conflict. And
Wow.
that's when I got out of, that stream, and I became aware in that time at the scene of a great battle.
Yeah. Wow. And then next thing you know, well, there was an interesting comment I saw that piqued my interest, and it was somebody commented on that video, and they said that you were able to help many souls by asking, basically pleading to your spirit guide, correct? That maybe they could send people to help the ones that died.
Yeah, I mean, there was too many for me to help. There was thousands. And many of them were confused. They passed over very quickly and painfully. So I summoned help. I would hope it would have come eventually. But see, what I've noticed is you have to ask for help before it shows up because we have free will, and you won't be helped against your will. So what happens sometimes is with your earthbound entities is they stew in their juices for a period of time before eventually they break down and ask for help, and then the help arrives. In this case, I just kind of was a little proactive because it was so awful.
So what exactly were you trying? This may sound like a really stupid question, but whatever. Like, what were you trying to help? Because were they basically going to walk around mindlessly on that plane as in their astral body because of the turmoil or the what's the word? Just like how crazy it happened to them, like, and you were trying to make sure that they got help to move on. That's it. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. If you looked at a battlefield in the astral after a battle, you'd see many spirits walking around, unsure of what is going on, unsure that they don't know why people aren't listening to them. They don't know that they're dead, and the ones that know that they're dead are in deep sorrow, and they just, especially, I mean, if somebody dies slowly, peacefully in their bed, they require a minimum of intervention. But when somebody dies violently on a battlefield, either being executed, like many of them were, or being gassed to death, it's frightful. So they're in a state, and they need some counseling, and they need some help. And so I spent the remainder of my time. I was able to spend about a day there in that time frame. And of course, when I returned to my body, about 15 minutes or so went by. So
That's interesting how that works, how time works like that.
yeah, the way when you go into the future, that's the way it works many times. So
Rick, you're
that's all.
always trying to help people. You're always trying to help people. You notice that?
Well, I mean, yeah, I mean, that's part of my mission. When I'm in my body, I'm trying to help people to astral project. And when I'm out, then I'm exploring or helping whoever I can, help.
Yeah, that's awesome. And yeah. So, Rick, that person goes on to say, so my question is, are potential futures sort of a Schrodinger's, did I say that right? Schrodinger's cat situation where they aren't real until they are witnessed?
Yeah.
Um, Yeah, what do you think of that?
Well, the word real is it's a lie. Okay.
Yeah, way to tell it to us straight, Rick.
Strictly speaking, I'm not sure anything is real. I think we're in an extremely sophisticated hologram video game that is being designed from somebody 100,000 years in the future or in the past, and we're playing it out. And that's astral projection is nothing but a cheat code. It allows you to cheat all the rules, like speed of light and all that kind of stuff.
Do you believe what you just said to be the truth, or are you just kind of throwing ideas out there?
Well, I believe that. I believe that. And many of our quantum physicists believe it as well. For instance, a particle behaves differently when it's being observed.
Yeah.
I mean, that should tell you something there. And it's just extremely sophisticated. But as far as the realities, they're all real. It's just we don't necessarily choose that particular future. Perhaps another Earth will choose that future. It doesn't make it less real. I visited there. I was there for a day. It wasn't fake. It's a reality that can happen out there. What's uncertain is whether this Earth, of all the billions perhaps out there, actually chooses that
Of
particular future.
of all the parallel life or parallel existence kind of a thing, like
Parallel,
parallel Earths out there, which
parallel Earths, yeah.
so wow, that's wow. So like what was I gonna say? So if you went into that with the intention, if you went into that astral projection with the intention, show me the most benevolent timeline in 2142, or like benevolent, I mean like most positive, love and light oriented kind of timeline, then you could have possibly seen a potential future that looks a lot brighter in a positive way.
I don't know if that thought process would take me to a place like that because it's kind of benevolent. What does that mean? Um,
Oh yeah, it's so subjective, right? Depending on who you're talking to. Like
yeah,
benevolent to somebody, they're like, I'm doing good by killing this person, kind of a thing.
it's kind of loose. Yeah, generally, if I want to return to a particular future, I have the ident if I've been there before. Otherwise, I just go through the wormhole for a year that I've picked, and then it puts me into what I consider is probably a probable timeline. It doesn't mean that it's the one we're going to choose, but it's one of a few probable ones that we're on the path to choosing. But that doesn't make it anything less real. I mean, they're all real. It's just a matter of whether it becomes a reality in our universe,
Okay. I gotcha.
parallel universe.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. So, Rick, let's hop into the interviews. Does that sound good? So, the vampire spirit. So,
Oh,
Rick had an interview with a vampire spirit, and where he went and he went and he was able to talk to a vampire spirit that's been around for what, like billions of years or something, since the beginning of humanity, I think
um,
he said.
you can never trust some of these things because they give you truth and then they put lies in there
I
too.
was going to ask that.
It's tough, and I think he lied more than some do. But it's okay. I just take it for what it's worth. I'm not signing off on anything. I'm just reporting what they said. So everybody has to make their own judgments. But yeah, I mean, he claimed to have been around for before humans were around. I know that.
So what do you so your first interview, well no, this wasn't your first interview, but well, number one, your interview skills, did you have any like prior practice or anything like that, or is this just you kind of going off of the cuff?
No, I've never done interviews before. I mean, I've spoken in numerous places, but I've never done interviews.
Well, okay, if anyone is interested in a vampire spirit and what they think and feel and would look like where they reside, then go check out his video interview with Vampire Spirit, along with his other interviews. I guarantee you'd find them entertaining and interesting. So, so Rick, okay, so boom, you show up in front of this Vampire Spirit, and like, how do you feel? Like, are you feeling fearful right out of the gate? Are you, because didn't you say your spirit guide kind of plead with you to, or asked you not to do it?
Oh, he does that all the time.
Yeah.
It doesn't stop me.
Yeah.
He knows that too. He just feels that it's his obligation as kind of my guardian to discourage me from these foolhardy occupations. And then I do them anyway. I mean, that's just the way I am. I want to get the information. It's worth whatever risk that I have to suffer. I mean, I'm not foolhardy though. I mean, when I pop up, I already have my shields up. I mean, for anything questionable, I'm well shielded. Um, the only way they can get to me is if I give them permission. So you have to be careful with the smart ones, the clever ones, because they'll always try to tempt you to do something. Like
Yeah. He,
like let's say you're talking with a demon and you'll ask him a question and he'll say, "Oh, there's no way I can answer that in English." So if I said, "Oh, okay, well, why don't you tell me telepathically?" Bam, that would give him permission to occupy
oh, tricky.
mind because that happened once. He tried that little tactic, and I was like, "Nah, that's okay, no." I don't want to
What,
know.
what were you talking to that tried to do that to you?
Oh, that was a demon of some
Oh,
sort.
just a demon of some sort.
Yeah, yeah,
But
he was moderately intelligent. So I saw the trick coming pretty fast. But I've dealt with some other of that ilk, and some are dumb, some are smart, some are hyper intelligent. So you have to be really careful.
the vampire tried it on you. He said, "Let me show you the something like the hidden mysteries or something like
Yeah, he
that."
did. Yeah, yeah, he gave it a shot. Um,
And right as he said that, he actually reached out to touch you.
yes, he did. And I just fended it off. I refused to fall into the trap.
So you didn't put a hand up or anything like an action flick or
I didn't
something
need
like
to.
that.
I didn't need to. He
Yeah.
he got as far as my shield and then he pulled back. And yeah, they can't get to me unless I make a mistake and give them permission. And I've studied demons and demonology quite a bit and exorcisms. I've been part of an exorcism. I'm fairly educated. I'm not full of myself. I'm not foolhardy. I'm not thinking that I can outsmart highly intelligent creatures. But I'm not afraid to talk with them and get their opinions. Just be respectful and to be highly careful.
Yeah. So and have your wits about you the entire time. So
Oh,
what so what are your I'm guessing your main like defenses are one, you create a white like light shield around you.
right.
And then two, you have to make sure you maintain your emotion of fear and make sure that that's all the way
Not
down.
fear. You fear is a weakness in that
Yeah,
situation.
I'm sorry, I meant like you just have to push it down and make sure you don't show any fear, right?
Yes. I mean, you don't want to show fear or weakness, especially in front of demon, because they eat that stuff up. They
Yeah, yeah, that's my point.
any chance that you give them. And some of them are very good at it too, like the succubus. When I went to interview a succubus, she was very good at what she did. She almost had me, but luckily I came to my senses at the time.
It was in the beginning of the interview with her, right? Wasn't she? She just looked very, very seductive to you,
Yeah, I mean
right?
they could take on a human form. I mean, she still had wings, back kind of wings, which kind of I don't know. Maybe that's hot for some people. Kind of a little bit of a turn off for me.
Oh, really?
But
I,
I'm
th-
willing to
I,
take that with.
Rick, I thought she would have. In my mind, I was thinking she read your mind and was able to tell what was
Oh,
attractive to you.
she arrived with the wings and then she folded them in, but I still knew they were there.
Gotcha.
So that,
Gotcha.
you know,
Yeah.
I don't, I'm not trying to be nitpicky here, but you know, but other
Tell
than
it how
that,
it is,
she
Rick.
was extremely, I mean, yeah, she knew exactly what my type was and just displayed it right there. So it helps being in my 60s. A lot more difficult when I was 15, I can tell you that much.
Oh yeah, yeah, I'm sure. Wait, so what was the point when she almost had you? Was it like weakening your mind and then you like what was her like moment of almost getting you? I forget.
Okay. I mean, as far as she's concerned, I already belong to them. It's just I ran out on the first succubus. I weaseled out at the end. That would be their way of thinking of it. No, it's not my way. I liberated myself. And but they don't like losing, and and demons have long memories, very long. They don't forget anything, especially if they feel you owe them something. So, in her mind, she was just claiming what she believed was theirs to begin with. I just
Huh.
disagreed.
Yeah. Well, Rick, you know what's interesting to me? Like you were taking advantage of because of your age and your hormones and everything like that. Like so to get someone to get into a contract with them when they are weak and they don't really know any better, like how can that create a valid, how could that create something concrete that like the demon could be like, oh yeah, that's legit, you know, you should never be able to get out of that. Does that make sense? It's like that's kind of silly to have
Well,
those thoughts.
they don't recognize an age of consent. Okay. For them, it's enough that you know what you're consenting to and you consent.
Yeah, but it's cheap. It's not, it's, they're playing on easy mode.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, they don't care, I guess, huh? I guess any victory they can get, they don't care
Yeah,
at
they're
all.
they're just looking for victories that, and if they can get it easy, they're going to go easy. I mean, you know.
All right, whatever, whatever. Well, anyway, that was pretty awesome that you stood up and had the bravery and courage to be like, nope, I'm out. I'm out of this contract. Don't even try it. See ya. So, anyway, back to the vampire spirit. So you talked to him. He tried to get you, and then I had some notes here about him. Um, what would you do? Oh, he said, tell me, what would you do if you had the power to see the truth of life? Would you not, like all others, fight to survive? Would you not beg for your life to be spared? Well, Rick, you wouldn't though. You, as you are, you wouldn't because of how evolved you are when it comes to being familiar with the next life and through your astral projections, right?
There's more. I mean, wanting to stay alive is ego and is your animal senses. That's what keeps you alive, and that's good because that's how our species got to this point. However, when you're making a choice from a soul level or from a spiritual level, there's higher things than just your physical life. You know, it's your goals to help humanity, for instance. So sometimes you have to sacrifice for that. Um, for instance, I there were people in my Patreon and in general on Astral Club that have asked for my help from time to time when they're astral projecting. The problem is there's a lot of them. There's only one of me. So I asked my angel guide if there was a way that I could be of assistance to all of these people who asked. And he said, well, it's possible if I assist you. Essentially, what we'd be doing, this is highly simplistic, is be breaking off pieces of your oversoul and then we'll just distribute it through the astral. And so that when people are in the astral and they ask for your help, they'll hear your voice and get your advice. And I agreed to that. Now it definitely does lower, you might say, my power or what have you.
I was
But
gonna say.
worthwhile to help all those other people. And I didn't even say anything because I wanted to see what would happen. But what would happen is I had 4 or 5 people sending me emails saying, hey, I asked for help in the astral and I heard your voice and you told me this, that, and the other thing. So it's great. So whatever
Wow.
is working out there, and people are getting the help they need, even though I'm just one person, who can only do one thing at a time, typically.
Whoa, that's amazing. That's amazing. And that confirmation too, that must have felt pretty
Yeah,
amazing to
I
have them be
didn't say
like,
anything because I didn't want people to have that in their head.
yeah, yeah.
So I
And
waited to see if anybody contacted me, and I got like four, five, six eventually, saying, "Hey, I contacted you." And who knows how many other people didn't bother to email me, that tried to get my help. So I'm really
yeah,
really happy about that.
well, that's a massive sacrifice. It sounds like it to me, for you to do. So that's amazing, Rick. Did you say your energy power is brought down because of that? Do you feel that in the physical
I don't feel it in the physical, but I feel it in the astral.
when you go out?
Yeah, it's a little bit harder to project than it used to be, and it's a little bit harder to get places that I used to get to easily before, but I can still
Huh.
do it. It just requires a little bit more energy because
Wow.
a little bit I have to gather a little bit more, than I used to have to.
Can you
That's
reclaim
fun.
what's you that's fine.
Yeah.
Can you reclaim that if you ever want to and have I don't know, become
No,
whole
I
in a
didn't
sense
ask.
like that?
Well, no, I didn't ask.
Huh.
Mhm.
Very cool. You said, why not show them another way? He says, pain is the only way we understand and we are obsessed with it. And he shows us who we really are. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
just
well,
very,
we always have a very negative view of things. And
yeah,
it
yeah,
is it's not that it's a lie. He's got a speck of truth in there.
yeah,
Pain is a teacher. I mean, you want to teach a 3-year-old child not to touch an oven, have him touch an oven, and I guarantee he'll never do it again.
yeah.
So pain is a teacher, but it's not the only
But
teacher.
yeah, yeah, it doesn't like, give you the green light to inflict as much pain as you want with no
Exactly.
remorse or anything. Or
Exactly. And that's their line of thought. And okay,
so
fair
yeah,
enough.
he said one of the last things he said to you, you can't escape him. He's the only one who reminds you of fragile. Yeah, it just all reminded me of, hey, I'm going to try to implant these fear bombs into your mind so then that disempowers you in some way. That's just what it reminded me
I'm
of.
not impressed. They
Yeah.
always, they always come off with that kind of grand statement. Uh,
Yeah.
and I'm not impressed.
Yeah. I hear you, Rick. So, well, let's shift and let's move on to interview with an ancient giant.
Oh,
Let's
yeah, that was a good one.
so you have the intention of finding a giant to did you know that you've read about them, right? And so
Yeah, and I saw one thousands of years in the past because somebody wanted me to try to find a giant in North America. And so I found one thousands of years in the past who were giving this Indian tribe a hard time. The thing would catch and eat their children, for instance, which was a very unfriendly act. So I taught them how to deal with it, but it wasn't very intelligent. This one was thousands, I guess, thousands of years older, so maybe it learned something. So yeah, I wanted to go to see a giant, and I didn't know where I was going. I just followed that thought, and I ended up in of all places, Afghanistan, uh, in their mountain complex, and uh,
did he look like the picture? If you guys don't know, go check out the interview on his channel. And he always posts a picture like of the vampire. There's a picture of a vampire and of the giant and succubus and so on. But this giant, you said he was 12 feet tall in the video. But like the giant in the picture, he looks really bulky and muscular. Was he like that in the picture?
oh, he was tall and he was muscular.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about it. And yeah.
So he wasn't just like sorry to interrupt you, Rick. He wasn't just like a human, but 12 feet tall.
Well, I mean, let's call him humanoid. And he had 6 fingers on each hand, and maybe 6 toes. I don't know. So he was different from a human that way. But I mean, he was humanoid. Um, if you were an alien, you might think that was a human that was just really tall.
Yeah.
But yeah, he was definitely a giant. This was not some human that suddenly became very tall. And he talked about being alive for thousands of years. So there's no human that's going to be doing that.
Yeah. You asked about the gods creating them, and he laughs. He laughs about the term gods. And he basically went on to say that it's an alien race that tinkered with the technology and genetics to create the race of giants, essentially, right, Rick?
Yeah, I mean, according to him, and I didn't write everything that he said, but according to him, they were masters at genetics, and they created humans, but they also did a lot of other experimentation. I mean, imagine you're a mad scientist who really has a command of genes. What might you do? Well, you might want to see, hey, can I make this? Can I make some sort of freak that's 12 foot tall? Can I make a human with wings? Can I make some person who's half human and half horse? And it's interesting that we've got these legends, uh, Greek legends in particular, but also Egyptian legends, where they show all these part human, part animal creatures. And we just assume that it's just their active imagination. But perhaps they were real and they were genetic experiments of these people. I don't think they had the same whatever limitations we have from a moral standpoint. I think they just believe they could do whatever they wanted to with
Yeah.
the clay of earth because it didn't break whatever personal taboos they might have had. Because after all, whatever they were doing, I'm sure they thought of us as lower beings. So I guess it's kind of like us messing with rats, probably.
Yeah.
So
It's so weird for me to think to get in that mindset of thinking how advanced technology may have been, well, was, I guess, from everything that I understand up until this point, was in the past, but we kind of took a step back based on whatever happened.
our ancients, and you can go look at things in ancient Egypt. They talk about the twin serpents of life, which is a very poetic way of talking about the double helix, which is the foundation of DNA and our DNA. So somebody, and the Egyptians would show it with two snakes going up.
Like it's
So how
just
did
that's the display on all our medical stuff.
Yeah, I mean, that's something that's highly advanced. Where did they get that information from? Because we just figured it out just recently, with all of that. So there was a lot of information that we've lost or that we just have hints of. But the problem is we look at it as we just dismiss everything as legend. It's like, oh, they were just
Yeah.
really creative people, and they came up with Indra's arrow, this missile thing that is fired destroys a whole city, big mushroom cloud, and you read that in the Mahabharata, and it's just wow. Either they're writing science fiction or they're just writing what they saw.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, the whole genetic engineering thing makes me wonder also, tell me what you think, Rick, about humans being created by an alien race or something like that. What are your thoughts on that?
We weren't created, we were uplifted. What they did, and the Anunnaki were the ones who did this, uh, they took the more primitive bipedal creature that was running around back then with a fairly low level of intelligence, and they mixed its DNA with theirs. And by doing that, they were able to uplift our species in that they increase our intelligence to a point where we would be of use to them because they were mining gold here to send to Nibiru to help fix their atmosphere. And their workers there was evidently two races on Nibiru. One was the Anunnaki, the other was the Igigi, who were another race. We don't know much about them, but they were their worker race, and they did all the work. The problem was is that they were at this work for a long, long time, thousands of years, and I guess they got tired of just slaving away on the hot earth. They were used to a cooler climate on Nibiru, so it was extra awful for them. And the idea was that what if we could uplift this species and make them into our workers? And they'll look upon us as gods, and they'll do what we tell them to do. And that's pretty much how it worked out. Which is why we have all these primitive beings that they dig up on a regular basis. But our group, our species, kind of popped out of nowhere about 250, 300,000 years ago. It's just like there was this real primitive form, and then suddenly we were there. Now, scientists can always say, well, we just haven't dug up, or they just didn't fossilize all those intermediate forms. Um, but based on current evidence that we have, you could very easily posit that there was no lead up. There was the primitive form. It was mixed with the genetics of these advanced aliens, and then suddenly the new human, Adamu or Adam, was born. And they then
Fast track too, right?
yeah,
Fast tracked as well.
sure. And then it was just a matter of producing a female that could reproduce because the female Anunnaki had to give birth to these first humans because there was no other way to do it. But when they made females, then they were able to made the females able to reproduce to take that burden off of the female Anunnaki.
Huh.
And so and so humans, that's what we did. We mined gold for a long time until at some point we rebelled or they left, one or the other, or maybe both.
Huh.
Um, and
That'd
when,
be interesting to see how that story went. If they just picked up and left, or if we rebelled, or what? Huh.
yeah, who knows? Maybe it's a little both.
Yeah. Huh. Slavery. And slavery has such a recurring theme throughout the
But,
ages. It's always,
but it's interesting because even today, I mean, gold has always held a special place in the hearts of humans. We've always valued it. It's always been this very, very valuable thing that we crave. And then we've got royal families that we call blue bloods. Why do we call them blue bloods? Well, I've noticed that the Anunnaki and the one I interviewed, they have a slight blue tint to their skin. So
huh.
our early ancestors probably looked at them, saw them as these giants with this blue blood, and they probably figured, oh, okay, that's the royals. The royals have blue blood. And so somehow we remembered that, and it fed into our own royal family.
Huh. Yeah. Even if they don't have some special direct link to the Anunnaki, they still just call them that because of royalty, like
Yeah,
the title.
yeah. And if they do, it would be so diluted at this point that you'd be able to tell the difference,
Yeah.
humans and
Huh. Gold, doesn't it have a, isn't it, does it have, is it super conductive with electricity or something like that? Doesn't
Well,
it?
gold is probably the best conductor of electricity. It's just not used because it's very valuable.
Uh,
Silver is also a very good conductor. It is used in some cases, and your cell phone has a very small amount of gold in it for various electronic parts. There's some silver in there too. Um,
huh. So just to go back to the giant and the end of your interview with him, he said something that kind of jolted you a little bit was he said there are things in this world that are not meant to be understood, and there are consequences for those who seek them too deeply. And you said that line really hit me pretty hard.
yeah, sure. I mean, it's something that I don't ordinarily think about. I,
Yeah.
Uh,
Obviously, you're just going out
I'm
like
rushing in
as a
where angels,
cowboy out there.
rushing in where angels fear to tread. It's just because I have this insatiable curiosity. I mean, if you want to torture me, all you have to do is put a book in a room and say, I am not allowed to read it. I will go insane.
Oh yeah. Yeah, there's no stopping your curiosity, huh? You're just yeah,
Yeah,
it's
there's
in your
so
nature.
much out there. And people say, "Oh, have you seen it all yet?" I'm like, "What are you talking about?" There's just an
Not even close.
I could live 1,000 lifetimes astral projecting, and I still would only carve a teeny portion of it. So it's just there's just so much out there, just in our universe.
Yeah. Yeah. It doesn't matter. Yeah, that's awesome. Well, that's what makes you you and why you're the one that should be doing this because you can't really think about that and be able to explore new horizons and new anything out there, you know.
You have to
So,
control your fear. That's the main thing. That's the main stumbling block for people astral projecting is fear. The antidote to fear is knowledge, and that's why I have Astral Club. So many people write me or leave comments and say, "Oh, they were afraid before because they saw the shadow man, and they were afraid to project, and a wide variety of other fears." And then they listened to my episode and they said, "Oh, okay." And so they were then confident and they were able to ignore the thing and then go off and have their experience. So, I mean, that's one of my main missions is to spread the information so that people won't make the mistakes that I had to make. Because I was just going with it and playing along for, as it went. I didn't have any books or guides. It wasn't until I was 11 years old that I got Journeys Out of the Body by Robert Monroe that I was able to read and know that there was someone else out there who also did this. And I thought I was the only one. And it was scary at times, but it just there's so much out there that it's worth dealing with the scary stuff. And it helped me to control my fear, and
yeah,
really important in all lifetimes.
to give any listeners out there that may be dealing with fear some confidence, Rick, remember you weren't you popped back into your body many a time from the Shadow Man? But then finally, when you became confident enough, you popped out of your body. You saw him over there, and you scanned him. You scanned him, and you noticed that he was pretty much like primitive, like
Mhm.
and no higher consciousness than like an animal or something like that.
Yeah,
And
it's kind of like a mosquito.
yeah, and then you gave him, and then you were like, "Oh, this is silly," and then you gave him the finger.
Yeah, I
You
flipped
gave
him
him the
off.
middle foot.
Then I just took off, and I've never seen him since.
Yeah, that was it. That was it. So that's pretty cool. That just shows you, yeah, you just gotta get that confidence and overcome that fear. And all it takes, it seems like all it takes is just that one time of going through it without being fearful, and then after that, you're good. You know.
hmm Well, you have to be careful with fear. I mean, fear can arise at any time during an astral projection, and if it does, your automated defense system will just pull you back into your body. So, I mean, you're nothing to fear. It's just you're just wasted in astral projection. That's all. But I was reading the book Dune by Frank Herbert many years ago. I read all of those books. I love the Dune series, and they have this Bene Gesserit sisterhood in that fictional book, and they have this litany against fear, which I memorized because it was so. I just loved the sound of it, and it helped me ever since then. So if I refer fear, I just do the litany again, which is I will not fear. Fear is the mind killer. Fear is the little death that brings total obliteration. I will face my fear. I will allow it to go over and through me. And when it is gone, I will turn my inner eye to see its path. Where the fear was, there is nothing. Only I remain.
Oh man, that's awesome. I need to recite that.
Yeah, you can use it anytime, your physical or astral life. And it really helps because you can see the fear going through you and over you, and you look at its path and it's gone. You're the only one that's left.
That's cool. Rick, what about having that on repeat as like a subliminal message as you're going to sleep, like hypnosis kind of style? Do you think that would be effective?
Yeah, it might.
Yeah.
For somebody who's just controlled by fear, Yeah, that might help.
Cool. Um, well, yeah, fair. The mind killer. Um, so Rick, what about let's go into Hecate. Yeah, that's how you say it, right? Interview with Hecate, goddess of the witches.
Akate,
Hecate.
you
Yeah.
know, call lots of different things. That's the current Greek pronunciation, I think. So,
So Rick interviewed Hecate, goddess of the witches, and from the get go, from the second Rick was in her presence, before anything was even said, she tested you right away, didn't she, Rick?
mhm.
Your like mental resilience, your
Yeah.
strength, and tried to bring you to your knees in worship of her, like a charm spell, would you say?
Well, man, I guess you could call it that if you like, but it was just her force of will. She's what you might call darkly enchanting. Uh,
Yeah.
so I guess you could use
Huh.
that type of term. It's just her force of will. I could see how it could easily break down some people who would
So,
just fall to their knees. Um,
and it's not even through anything that's said, it's through her will that's
mhm.
creating you. And then, so say you did break down, just say you did break down in worship of her. Is that, are you able to think about as you're doing it, like, oh, this sucks. I don't want to be doing this, but I'm doing it anyway? Or is it more like you're just turned off in that sense and you're just in control of the other being?
I don't know. I've never broken down before. Um, it's in order to interview these people, I have to try to keep an independent mind. So I wouldn't want to fall under anyone's spell. And I find her extremely attractive, but I'm not saying I trust her 100%. So
Yeah.
that's not something I would play with. She gave me some information at the end that I could contact her if I ever needed assistance. And she told me she hadn't given that information to a male in hundreds of years. So I was very much, complimented by that. But, I want to maintain my neutrality as much as possible so that I could talk to a lot of different types of entities. And I'm not looking to necessarily to fall under the spell of any particular entity, God, demon, whatever.
Yeah. You said that you started to kind of waver a little, but you sent out a plea to your guide, right? Your spirit guide.
It was powerful. I'm not going to front on that. She was definitely very powerful. And I felt a little bit under threat, so I reached out, yes. That's not something I ordinarily do. But she was definitely testing me. And she was using all of her wiles, if you will, and her eyes are hypnotic. Uh, it's very easy
Have
to
you,
fall into like falling into a dark pool.
have, wow. Have you thought about kind of doing what the Archangel Raphael did to you and kind of looked above into the side of you? Didn't he do something like that instead of looking you directly in the eyes? I thought you said that in your
Looked
video.
over my head. He looked over my head, uh,
Oh, yeah.
just to demonstrate superiority.
Oh, I was thinking like he was looking at your crown chakra or something like that, but just to demonstrate.
Looking over my head. I mean, the fact that he deigned to speak to me was I was supposed to consider that the ultimate. The fact that he lock eyes with me, please.
So that's crazy though. So you asked for the help and it came obviously, and you were good to go at that sense. I mean, at that point, did you hear anything from your spirit guide or did it just come to you and you just didn't have to worry about being charmed?
At it with Hakati.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, after I got the aid, she backed off. She also sensed that I called in aid, and I believe she commented on it. So I wanted to make I think maybe part of me didn't need the help, but part of me said I want to demonstrate to her that I have help on hand if I need it.
I
So
gotcha. Yeah.
kind of showing my flag a little bit too.
Yeah. Yeah. You're kind of showing your hand a little bit.
With these entities. They respect strength. And in the astral, it's moral strength and power and that kind of thing that sees you through. And also your will. You have to maintain a strong will because they'll try to batter it down if they can.
Yeah. So you asked her about her origin, and she showed you through mist. She was waving her hand, and she kind of showed you through mist what
Yeah,
her journey was.
the area around her kind of faded, and there was, yeah, it was like, I don't know, it's like peeking into the universe. And she was showing me the past and where she had come from. I got that idea because someone had left a comment and said, "Hey, could you ask where some of these gods or whatever come from?" Because I hadn't asked the question before. And so with her, I asked that question. She gave me a nice little origin story. She was right there at the beginning, according to her. And, for the sake of argument, let's say she's telling the truth. So.
Yeah, and she said that she was basically she became aware of creation, and she had no name and felt empty inside.
Yes.
And her only emotion was curiosity, traveling through, seeing the stars, being born and destroyed. And then she stumbled upon Earth. So, what? She was energy at that point with emotion. It's not like she was a human astral projecting or anything like
No,
that.
no, no.
No.
She's a different form of life. Probably mostly energy. I don't know what else makes her up, but she's a different order of life. Let's
Yeah.
takes on the form of a human when it's convenient.
Yeah. Yeah. Huh. Yeah. So then she comes across primitive life here on Earth and notices that the women are thirsting for knowledge and seeking answers. And she shows up to them through the smokes of fire and mists in their nights. And she aids them on their journey of healing and power. And then they gave her names and identity.
Many names. She had many names. The one that I like is Hecate. But she was Inanna, Ishtar, a bunch of other ones too. And depending on the civilization, that she was helping. She found connection with the women because of their more spiritual nature, she said. I know that some men would say, "Hey, wait a minute," but that was what she said. And perhaps the feminine mystique is more attuned to those types of universal energies, the reproductive energies. So perhaps that is something that women have over men, and that's fine. We're different. But yeah, so that's what she was mostly connected to. It was the feminine of humans. That's just
So it's interesting. So the women almost kind of gave her a sense of identity
yeah.
to go off of, because if it wasn't for those women and that experience with them, would she have never been this grand goddess in the eyes of humans? And I don't know, it's just very interesting to think, you know what I mean? Would she just still be a soul just traveling around looking at stuff?
Types of entities are really they're kind of co-made here in the universe and also on Earth. We humans, the human worshipers especially, help to create the being, help to create the intelligence and the abilities, and to give them names. So it's kind of a collective partnership, really. And it doesn't always appear that way, but they need us as much as we need them. Uh,
Yeah.
Maybe perhaps more so. Maybe they need.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really interesting to think, Rick, because humans, one of our superpowers is, correct me if I'm wrong, it seems manifesting, believing, and then that gives energy to whatever is in thought. And then is it like, correct me if I'm wrong here. Does that make sense? And then that's maybe the reason why they need us so much too.
Yeah, I mean, we also have something that is as much as some of these entities will play it down or won't mention it, we have a certain freedom, the freedom of will and an ability to change ourselves dramatically that they just don't have. Like the angels, for instance, they are as they were created. They are as they were when they came into being. They can't really change dramatically. They'll always stay basically who they are. Humans are the ones with the abilities to make changes and to use their freedom of will to go in a totally different direction if that's what they choose. So they see that in us, and they are, some of them especially, are a bit envious of that ability. Although they would never admit it. Especially the demons and the whatever just love downplaying and calling us scum and mud and all the rest of that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Which doesn't seem fair to me. And tell me what you think, because like we're kind of limited in our, I don't know, capacity or knowledge of how everything works beyond the veil and stuff like that. I don't know, just beyond the beyond. So, like, what am I trying to say? So, but then they'll judge us in ways that it seems like we know all of that, but we just decide to be a certain way that is looked down and frowned upon by them. You know what I mean? Even though our knowledge is limited, some people are doing the best they can with what they know. And you know what I mean?
As I said, many of these entities won't admit what they see in humans that they envy, because that's not something they'd be willing to admit. And we've got this opportunity that we're placed in this situation here in the physical world where we're given these very great challenges, and we have an opportunity to work through them and to defeat anything that stands in our way of achieving our goals. And doing that in this particular situation, first of all, it's a very fertile ground for testing purposes, for beating things, for achieving goals. And if you can do it in the physical, then it shows, what you can do in the astral and on, spiritually speaking, because this is the hardest right here. So if you can do well here and help others and what have you, then it's a good place to progress fast. It's like taking an abbreviated course that usually takes 12 weeks, but you're going to take it and do it in 6. So that just means that you really got to work harder and do more and really absorb that information more quickly, rather than somebody who's got the 12 weeks to do it. So
Yeah.
that's that's one of the things that the physical is good for. Uh,
Yeah.
and certainly the gods, the demons, all those different entities out there, they each have their own view of things. And once again, I always take everything with a grain of salt, um, because first of all, they've got their own opinion, their own viewpoint. Second of all, some of them have an agenda. So you have to just,
I,
ask questions and they answer, and we go from there.
I love how you talk about the gods and stuff like that and these just powerful beings. You're just like you just gotta like, yeah, Jimmy over there in the corner, he's got his own way of thinking. Don't even worry about little Jimmy over there, you know. You know what I'm saying? It's just hilarious. It's wow, it's a breath of fresh air, I guess, or nobody I don't know. I would never expected to have met somebody in my life that would talk like that about these supernatural beings.
Yeah,
So
sometimes it's just I take it for granted. Although sometimes I'll talk to my wife and her eyes will just bug out of her head. She'll be like, "You did what?" I'm like, "Oh yeah, I just talked to this angel." And
how does that work for you and your wife? Because she doesn't astral project at all, right?
no, no, she has astral projected. It's just not.
Oh,
My daughter has astral projected too. So is my brother. But it's it's not everybody's cup of tea. She does other things. She's an artist and is occupied in doing things with art and helping people with art, as well as helping other people. But for me, it's just my main mission here to help people astral project and to help educate them in anything that I can, in any way I can, to help them realize what other abilities they have that are perhaps sleeping, because there's so much more available that you can learn on the astral. You can go into the Akashic records and all that kind of stuff, and traveling into the future or the past. It's it's just a rare opportunity that I'd like everybody to be able to experience at least once in their lives. So that's what this is. That's what this is
Yeah,
for.
it should be a required course in school, at least 1 year, where you at least, you learn and you can at least experience it one time and then decide to go whatever way. It just seems like it would be really helpful and elevate the consciousness in a positive way.
I mean, I get comments and emails on a daily basis from people, and it really is touching. They tell me that I changed their life. They were living in fear, and then they heard some episodes of mine, and so now they've turned their life around, and this is what they're doing. It's just when I get them, it's just really touching. These people send me these emails and comments and just saying how I've been able to help them. I mean, that's my main goal at this point. Of course, my family, but after that, then it's astral projection. I mean, when I leave this plane, my hope is that I leave behind a lot of astral projectors who then can go on and spread that knowledge to others, and just continue to branch out.
Yeah, well, you're definitely doing it, Rick. You're definitely completing that mission for sure, I would say.
Do my best.
Yeah, so we all thank you for that. Hopefully we can pick up the pieces and try to help out a little bit. Um yeah, so you'll like talk to your wife about some of the adventures you've been on, and so she knows. She's like, "Oh, cool. I believe you 100% because I know I've done it myself."
Oh, yeah, of course.
Yeah.
The one who was closed-minded. I've already appeared for her. There was one time I wanted to test, and she was in a kind of a trance state watching this television program. She always is when she's like that. You could set a bomb off, she wouldn't know. And so I was in the next room and I left my body and I went between her and the television and I just went like this, hey, hey, hey. And then I went back to my body and I said, hey, did you see me? And she said, oh, was that you? There was like this cloud that was between me and the TV set, and I missed an important scene. And she was mad at me.
So in the physical, she probably knew it was you. If all of a sudden a cloud shows up out of nowhere and she can't
Well,
watch the
in
TV.
her mind, she was in an altered state. And so she was very much fixated on that area. And
Yeah.
I think when someone's sometimes in an altered state, it's easier for you to see. Not to mention, I tried to be as close to the physical vibration as I possibly could. I was thinking like very physical thoughts, so that I'd be very close to the physical. And in that state she was in, she saw me as this cloud between her and the television set.
That's cool.
And of course, I've had plenty of other projections where she's seen me and that kind of stuff. But
Oh yeah, really? Like in the physical, she saw you
oh,
as in your astral form.
cool.
Huh. That makes me wonder if do you think that happens more often to people where they'll see an astral projector in the physical, but they'll kind of dismiss it and not admit
Sure.
that it just happened or something?
Of course, there's a million different explanations that people will come up with, even when it's quite plain what's going on. It's the same thing with people with hauntings too. Usually they'll be in denial for a long time until it's so much in their face that they have to call for help or do something about it. People
Yeah.
don't like the unusual. They want everything to have a very concrete and a very plain answer. And they don't like weird stuff like that. And
Yeah, it's like it gets people out of the comfort zone, and people just want to be in their comfort zone and routine and whatever they're comfortable with, it seems. Um, so back to Hecate really quick. So she was all about, it seems like her thing was all about paths and crossroads. That was kind of her, she's the guardian of that or something like that, you would
yeah,
say.
that's one of her things is guardian of crossroads, that kind of thing. People
Yeah,
summon her at a crossroads, for instance.
yeah. And then you asked her, is there a path for everyone, even those who have lost their way? And she says there is a path, but not all choose to walk it. Um, yeah, basically every soul is capable of transformation and finding their way, and it requires courage and it requires facing the darkness. So yeah, this is what I wanted to get into, facing the darkness within themselves. Those who are too afraid to look into the shadows will never know the light, but for those who are willing to walk into the dark and emerge from it, there is always a way forward. So
Yeah,
like,
that's her thing too. The darkness. She tests people, looks into their soul, looks if there's darkness, and see if they can navigate their way out of that darkness into the light. And she challenges people. She's not easy. She's not an easy mistress. She's not an easy teacher or a professor, or God for that matter. So, if you've got that secret darkness that you're not facing, you'll face it with her and it won't be fun. So you want to go there with a clean slate and, and a powerful will, or else you're going to, return to your body whimpering.
yeah, to put it lightly, right? So but the way she was talking about darkness and facing it, so would you say that that's the same as doing shadow work, or something like looking into your dark side and healing it, like healing your trauma and your fears or something, or overcoming your fears? Would you say it's anything like that?
There's a teacher who uses that word shadow work. And I'm a little uncomfortable with her and some of the things that she's said. I don't like using that term, and I think she spends too much time concentrating on the shadow. Uh, the shadow shouldn't be ignored, it has to be acknowledged, but you don't want to dwell on it because that leads to a different path and quite destructive one. Um, so you got to be really careful when you walk that path.
The Yeah, I hear you, Rick. The idea in my mind, at least like the solution would be you figure it out. You got to come clean with yourself, figure out what yeah, is something negative. What am I trying to say? Like, yeah, like something either traumatizing to you or else like a fear or something, and you have to confront it and be real with it. And then you have to kind of like in your own way set it free, and like you kind of like have to in your own way, you know, you've confronted it, so now you can kind of walk away and that won't be bothering you anymore.
Yes, yes. And it's you have to be careful with that kind of shadow stuff with you don't want to become like a navel starer. You don't want to be so consumed with your own self that that you ignore, which is the primary mission, is to help others. And I think sometimes that approach is very self-centered. And I mean, I understand there's a certain amount of that, certain amount of ego that we work with, but it's not something that you want to get absorbed with. You want to make a career out of. It's something that should be faced and defeated and then moved
And
on.
then move on.
And then you find ways to assist others to do the same, not just continue to work on your own stuff.
Yeah, yeah, I hear you. So then, yeah, Rick, we have to get to the gift that she gave you, because that was wow. I mean, I'm not trying to get you to tell us what it is, because that'd be stupid and not a cool thing to do. And anyways, there's no way you will tell us. But like so Hakate, if you guys don't know, she said to Rick, "You have impressed me, mortal, or you have impressed me for a mortal. I will give you a means to call upon me in time of need. You will not share this wisdom with any other human male and precious few females." and then a blinding flash of light filled your consciousness, Rick, with a like a knowledge she granted you. So like definitely not asking for specifics, but like I guess did all of a sudden next thing you know, you just had a vast like encyclopedia in the back of your mind at that point or something, just of hidden knowledge or something. If you or we can just not even talk about it if you don't want to.
Well, I mean, I'm not gonna reveal it for obvious reasons. But it wasn't an encyclopedia of knowledge. It was just, it's like somebody giving you their phone number or their address on
Okay.
an energy level.
Oh, so kind of like her ident or like ident of location. Oh, that's awesome. Okay. I got you. Yeah. Cool. Um, well, that's pretty awesome. And I don't know how many other people can say they got that gift from her. So congratulations, Rick.
Okay, thanks.
What did it feel like when you gained that knowledge? Was it just like boom?
Well, I was very humble. I was very grateful, certainly. I
Yeah.
wasn't looking for any gifts or anything.
Yeah.
I'm just looking, the gift there is really just talking to me, giving me the information. So, I mean, that was completely I wasn't soliciting that at all. That was just a gift that she decided to bestow. I mean, my guess is I probably passed her tests, and so she decided that she was going to do that.
Yeah.
Also,
That's
maybe she sensed that when I give my word, I give my word.
yeah, that's helpful, right? So then you asked her for a lesson for those of us who walk the mortal path, a piece of advice. She says, do not fear the dark. It is in the dark that you will find your true power. Embrace the unknown, for it is where the magic lives. The crossroads will always be there waiting. It is up to you to find the courage to step into the unknown. Doesn't that reminded me of Darth Vader when I first heard it and he says, Luke, if you only knew the power of the dark side.
I think the energy there was a little bit different. Uh, he was inviting him into this cartoonish evil that is the dark side in Star Wars.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, realistically speaking, we all have light and shadow sides. And they make up both. They make up who we are. It's just, you just want to make sure that you accentuate the light and acknowledge the dark, but move, through it. And she's very much interested in the people who have the courage to move through that so that they can help others, because she was very much oriented towards that with the wise women who came to her. She helped them to learn a number of things, not only spells, but also various cures for illnesses. And so very much, interested in people who have the bravery to confront, things like that, and to move on and to move forward. And for a lot of people, that's a very difficult thing to confront. I mean, there are people who go camping and they sit there and they play music loud. Why are they playing music loud in a camping situation? Because they want silence. They don't want to have to think. They don't want to have to be with themselves. So this loud music drowns out those thoughts. I mean, when you go camping, it should be a place of meditation and quiet and introspection. But that also requires a certain amount of bravery, because looking inside and being very honest with yourself as to what your strengths and weaknesses are can be painful. But it's necessary to really self-actualize to get to that point where you're ready for newer things and ready to progress upwards. I mean, I didn't have to come back this time. I volunteered because I saw that there was people who were interested in spiritual disciplines and things like astral projection. So I came back willingly, but I don't know how many more times I'm going to do that. So that's why I want to try to spread the information so that others out there can also act in the same way by teaching others. Uh,
yeah.
I don't teach astral projection just so one person can do something. I teach them so that they can learn and then spread the information to others.
Yeah. Do you think your progress will be like um a decision maker for you? Like if you're very successful and how much you have spread awareness of astral projection, that will be a deciding factor for you on if you come back next time or not.
I would imagine that'd be a very important one, yes.
Yeah. I remember reading a comment also recently that you said part of the reason you came back was for your daughter too, right? Like to help her or
Yes.
something like that.
Yes, I mean it wasn't just there wasn't just one reason, but my daughter asked me to come back because she wanted me to be her father, and I have a lot of love and affinity for her soul. We've had many lives together, so that was yet another reason to come back. I mean, when people come back, there's always a number of reasons. There's never just one thing. There's always a number of things. So, yeah, I mean, although I actually gave myself an out before I went into my body, I made sure there was like a little bit of an illness that it was called pyloric stenosis, and it kicked in at some point when I was just a baby. What it does is it's a little film that covers the pylorus, so the stomach can't empty into the intestines and what have you. So instead, it gets violently vomited out, and I used that. I did that on purpose because I wanted the option at that point in time of getting out if I didn't want to continue with the life. But
Really?
I remember thinking that no, I want to stay here and do what I came here to do. And then they just performed a little operation on me and were able to.
Wait, how would you know at such a young, you're not even, well, yeah, you're a baby. How would you know at that point of your incarnation that you would want to stay or leave?
Oh, well, it
Like,
was.
what was the deciding factor for you?
I don't know. It had been a while since I'd reincarnated, so I guess I didn't know what it was going to be like again. So,
Oh, okay.
when I reincarnated, oh, this isn't that bad. This is better than last time. And like, "Oh, okay, I'm like, this is okay." So went ahead and we got the surgery, and I was fine.
You implanted a ticking time bomb just in case.
It's weird is that my daughter had similar symptoms at the same age that I did, but I uh, I put my hands on her and did some healing, and we went to sleep. And when we woke up, this little film had come out in feces in her diaper, and so I think
Oh,
she didn't have to go through the.
that's, you saved her.
Yeah.
Hey, I tried to do something similar to my mom, who is she was on in a hospital bed, and she had issues with her digestion. Like, what was it? I think her colon. Yeah, her colon. And I you know I visited her, traveled down, and then in I put my hands over her like that, and I just tried to think of positive, positive things and try to like send light and stuff into it. And she felt better. I don't know if I did anything. I like to think I did, but it
Oh,
just, but you saying that reminded me of that. So so did you ever tell your daughter that you came back? Like
oh yeah.
she's one of the, and
Oh,
she understands all that and everything.
about it. Oh yeah, sure. She we're very close, very close daddy daughter type situation. Uh,
Nice.
so she calls me all the time, and when she's driving home, just wants to talk to her old dad. So
Yeah, that's great. That's pretty sweet to have a relationship like that where you both understand uh like, beyond the veil like that
yeah, I
and the
mean,
connection.
even when she was little, my wife my wife would ask me, "Oh, do I want this for dinner?" And Alana, that's my daughter, would answer for me and say, "No, Dad doesn't want that." And she was always right.
That's great. Yeah. Yeah. So you guys obviously have a strong connection. So next thing you know, you had an interview with the Shadow Man, Astral Shadow Man.
He was kind of like the prime shadow man. you might say. He called brothers, which he's got many of those out there. They're like a fraction of his consciousness. He's, you might say he's the chief. So he's a little bit more intelligent.
Yeah, so then that means the shadow being that you scanned wasn't the prime. That was probably one of the little
Cool.
minions or broken pieces of the prime.
That was just a minion, yeah.
He talks about just he says manifestation a bunch and about like what he is and who he is, and that just reminds me of humans and how we manifest, and especially through the emotion of fear. It almost sounds like he is definitely a manifestation from humans' fear. What do you think about that? Do you think so?
Probably. Certainly, the figure is widely seen by people in astral projections. It usually seeks out newer people, because they're easier to scare than veteran astral projectors, which is a shame because it scares a lot of folks who don't know what it is, and they're afraid that, oh, it's going to possess my body and all this other kind of stuff, and
Yeah.
feed off of the fear. Like mosquitoes feed off of blood, they feed off of fear. Yeah. And so if you don't give it to them, they'll go elsewhere.
Yeah, but like when you had your conversation with him, it didn't even sound like he was malevolent. Like it didn't. It sounded like he was just kind of doing what he does.
Yeah, well,
You know,
mosquitoes aren't malevolent. They kill, they've killed millions of humans throughout history. I think I heard somewhere say that the malaria kills like 1 million people a year, but they're not malevolent. They just do what they do, like an animal intelligence.
yeah,
Viruses aren't malevolent, yet they have killed what, billions of people? So you don't have to be malevolent to be something that perhaps we as humans are uncomfortable with. You could call it a natural force of some sort, and have it do what it does without necessarily impugning its character as to whether it's evil or whether it's good. I mean, first of all, the whole concepts of evil and good are simplistic. I mean, let's be honest with each other. There's very few things in life that are all evil or all good. They're usually some mixture of both.
yeah. Depending on who you're speaking to. Yeah, yeah, definitely. Did you feel any fear when you were talking to him or anything like that? I guess not really, right?
No, not with him. I mean, I have faced down his brothers before. Why should I be afraid of him? Um,
Yeah,
he's nothing but a shadow man. That's all he is. His power is in fear. That's
yeah,
I mean, people, oh, you can wrestle them if you like, and it'll be like wrestling yourself. Uh, but it's the fear is what they want. It's how they feed. And if you don't give it to them, there's nothing else they can really do. I mean, they look scary on purpose. I mean,
yeah,
shadow man thing is like the universal sign language for be afraid. Okay, I mean, who wouldn't be afraid waking up in their room and seeing a shadow man in the corner?
yeah. And that's a recurring theme, it seems, with a bunch.
Everywhere. You put in shadow man or hat man in Reddit or something like that, and you'll get all kinds of hits.
Yeah,
Or online, you'll get all kinds of hits.
but then also fear though too. Like that being the fuel for entities and
Yeah,
beings out there.
that one, they feed off fear. That's what they do. Like mosquitoes feed off blood.
It's like and you had an interview with the reptilian as well, right?
Oh, the reptilians, yes. They're very unpleasant characters.
Yeah. So you kind of it sounded like your intelligence was it kind of surpassed theirs, or it was like I don't know, you were a more intelligent being when dealing with them.
I don't know. I guess you can measure intelligence different ways. I don't know. I mean, I wanted to get some information from them, and I was able to do it. And they were. I mean, they're definitely intelligent, but their intelligence works in different ways.
Yeah.
And keep in mind, I'm trying to translate it from the images that I'm getting from them. So maybe my interpretation is a little simplistic. Because when you're dealing with telepathic information, you're getting all these images, and you do your best to translate them into English.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm sure that can probably be a little tough. So, Rick, they're like in existence right now, then, right?
Yes,
Just like the Pleiadians and just
they
like,
have bases below ground.
yeah, lots of tunnels and stuff like that, right? And they had ownership of the earth before we were here.
They claim the Earth is theirs, that they were here first. Whether that claim is valid or not, I don't know, but that's their claim.
Have you ever heard of the Lacerta files?
Yeah, I think I have heard about those. I think I read some of those years ago, maybe.
Yeah, I just stumbled across them I don't know, a few months back. But I don't know, it just was interesting because like some of the things were aligning with what you were saying and what was said in the Lacerta files, which was back in like 2000 or something like that.
We have
So,
legends of lizard men going back thousands of years in Babylon, Sumeria, ancient Egypt, the New World. um, have drawings or stone pillars designed with these weird lizard men, and of course, so it's all over the world. And the natives here in America have some legends of lizard men too. They call them feathered serpents. Um, and Quetzalcoatl was I think it was Incan or Mayan, one of the two. And they're called the feathered serpent. And we know now that, dinosaurs, for instance, had some feathers. That's not something we knew until fairly recently. So this is all over the world, and their scientists are just saying, "Oh, it's everybody's got this weird imagination. Everybody wants to draw lizard men for some reason." But I find that a little, questionable that it would be all over the world, especially back in the days when you couldn't just hop on a plane and go to another part of the world. They were pretty
yeah.
isolated. So these lizard men have been around, and whether they were here first, I don't know. That's their claim. Right now, they're just kind of underground doing whatever it is they're doing.
Yeah. And from the Lacerta files, it sounded like they are able to disguise themselves through like telekinesis kind of in a way, like they're able to just it somehow trick our minds from seeing their true what they really look like. Have you ever heard anything like that?
Heard that. I've heard that.
But
I,
you don't.
I haven't actually witnessed it though.
Gotcha. I was just wondering if you, through astral projection, were able to confirm any of that kind of stuff.
No, I never went looking for dragons or for lizard people, because I talked to others and found out they're unpleasant individuals. And the only reason I went there is because people were saying, "Hey, could you talk to these folks?" So,
Somebody I saw in a comment, somebody said, "Are something about leprechauns? Can you?" They were like, "Are leprechaun?" They were like, "Are leprechauns real? If they are, can you go interview them?"
if they're real, maybe I'll try to do that. I don't know. But yeah, who knows? I get a lot of comments. I can't do them all.
Yeah. That's why there should be a school or something like that where everybody has their assignment of what to go check out and then they come back and report their findings and talk about it.
Yeah. And maybe you have to be Irish in order to do it. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe you'd have an easier time finding them if that was the case. Um, man, yeah, you had some really interesting encounters like the god of human sacrifice.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and you just maintain your composure and you don't. Was that hard to keep your fear from rising up when you encountered him?
No, I mean, I'm used to these blowhard type demons. They're always a lot of bluster, and they try to scare you, and it's just too easy to read through it. So no, I mean, I was disgusted by some of the things that I saw. You know, children being fed into fires, for instance. But no, I wasn't really scared per se. No.
Huh. Rick, what's really interesting throughout this conversation? Like, as I talk to you about these supernatural beings, gods, whatever you want to call them, goddesses, I like I, I have no experience. My ability is nothing compared to, a fraction of the astral projectors out there. So so what I'm trying to say is like I am the whole mystique that's built around them, you know, of holding them on a pedestal. It's kind of being taken down for me. You know what I mean?
Good.
But but it wouldn't be right for me not to acknowledge that if I was in the presence of any of them, I would probably get destroyed and my fear would be insanely high. But it's it's just a very interesting dynamic that's happening right now, that you are making it seem, yeah, you're kind of like breaking that mold for me at least, which is interesting, which is interesting. Yeah. So I appreciate that, Rick. But throughout you talking to all of them, a lot of them, they always kind of speak about balance. Don't they all seem to kind of like that's their main driving force? They're like, yeah, we're doing it for the balance.
Balance definitely does come up. And it's if you look at the greater reality, if you will, balance is very important in our universe. If it wasn't balanced just right, life wouldn't have been possible in this universe. And I'm sure there are other universes where there is no life because things just didn't work out right. Matter of fact, one of the reasons that scientists like the holographic model is they've studied our universe and they've seen that all the different things that had to happen to create these laws, like gravity, for instance, weren't fated. They could have easily gone off in another direction, such that, for instance, gravity would have never been a law. Without gravity, particles would not have been attracted to one another to form suns and planets and all the rest of that stuff. And as a matter of fact, using their fancy computers, they've computed that our universe is like the equivalent of a 1 in a million universe, that it would come out like this. And when you mention the holographic model, and then you posit many other parallel universes and Earths, then it makes sense to them because we're not just 1 in a million, we're one of millions of realities that this one happens to be one that can support life. There's other ones that can too. There's other ones that can't. So when you bring that in as an explanation, all of a sudden you don't have to think about did we hit the lottery kind of thing. You then it's just like, well, if there's billions of these things, then it's inevitable that there's going to be a universe that has the right rules and the right laws to make it available for life.
What do you think about the whole like there are no coincidence, everything happens for a reason? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, there is an overall design or plan, and I don't know who made the plan, but there is some sort of structure out there. And within that structure is our free will. Our free will appears unlimited, but it actually is limited. But there's a lot of give and take, a lot of leeway within the set parameters. One of the angels said that kind of recently. And that, that makes sense that there is some sort of a guiding plan in general. And then, every reality has a shot at achieving their goals, let's say, whether it's moving, an advancement in spirituality or what have you.
So then you also had an interview with a Pleiadian, and she seemed very nice and benevolent, right?
She's one that I actually didn't constantly keep my shield up for because I could sense right away that she was no threat.
Yeah. And then she was talking about evolving, and that's the reason why she's here, right?
Yeah, they're here to assist us in evolving to the next level.
Huh. Sees everything, talks about how we only see everything from a neuroscope and everything differently, separately, and says that it's all connected. Yeah.
I remember once I was in the astral and I asked on a lark, I said, I want to know uh, all of the planets with life in our universe. And it all came to me and it all seemed so simple. And it's like I knew everything about those planets and about the life. It was just all there for me. And it was just so simple. And then I returned to my body, and it was like pouring the Pacific Ocean into a shot glass. Unfortunately, your physical brain is not designed to hold information for the universe. It's like downloading a gigabyte file into an old-fashioned 100 megabyte computer. It just does not work.
Yeah.
I
But
still get flashes. I still get flashes of insight, though, and flashes of information that maybe bubble up from the unconscious there somewhere. But yeah, unfortunately, most of that went poof.
huh. And that's just a limitation of being human, huh?
Well, yeah, I mean, we have our physical brains, and they're capable of more than we actually tax them with. Like for instance, now we have these wonderful phones, and I barely know my wife's phone number. Back in the old days, I used to know like 30 phone numbers by heart. Because I knew I would need them. But now, because I've got this crutch, I don't even remember my darn wife's phone number. And if you go back to the days of the Iliad and our ancient ancestors, especially before writing, they would memorize whole books, whole stories. And we have that capacity. We still have it to this day. It's just we've allowed our minds to get lazy. So, I use that ability to help remember these types of things. But yes, our mind is limited. You're not going to empty all the information of the universe into a human mind. If you did, they'd probably be schizophrenic because they'd be like all over the place.
Oh, yeah, just overload. Yeah. Huh. Yeah, we really, as humans, we have the potential to go either way, it seems like, to have that, to evolve in a good way where we're bringing back, yeah, where we just, I don't know, just gain more of a capacity for things, or else we go the other way and it becomes more limited. But does it, yeah, it just seems like humans, they can, very versatile, very, so many possibilities attached to being human. You know what's interesting, Rick? There are all these beings out there, and then, but we haven't, you'd think there would be more connection to them in the physical. I don't know. What do you think about that?
Well, the um, I think the Mosaic religions clamped down very fiercely on all those different entities, starting with Christianity and Judaism. Um, Judaism started out very polytheistic, going back to the ancient Hebrews. You'll hear about all the different gods. Um, Matter of fact, geez, I think Yahweh at one point was a thunder god with the ancient Hebrews. But when Christianity started taking over in the Roman Empire, any pagans eventually were driven out and were persecuted. So that information went away. And then you still had Judaism, of course. And then when Islam kicked in, it was the same thing, just different way of going about it, but no more paganism. So, we've driven that out. And then when the Renaissance came and we started going to the scientific method and industrialization, all of that spiritual stuff got put aside because now we were interested in improving our physical world. And it was just our daily waking lives were work, 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 and then sleep. There was no more time for meditation or for connection with your gods. There was the one, and if you had any problem with that, you're going to be in trouble. So I think a lot of that was just due to the Mosaic religions and, going into the industrial worlds and that was just taking us away from all that kind of uh, other spiritual.
But do you think that do you only have to, or can you only reach connection with any of these beings through astral projection? Or do you think something like the Pleiades or the reptilians would connect in the physical? Like, you know what I'm saying?
I would I would connect with the Pleiadians in the physical. I would not connect with the
S-
wizard.
Yeah, so it is possible. So like why isn't it more seen around the world, or why isn't it more documented or
There are
more
many reports
natural?
of people seeing lizard men in caves, and I imagine there's some people who won't report it because that's all she wrote. Um, they're very protective of their inner sanctums and what have you, and they don't like trespassers. Well, they don't like them, but they do like them, I think, from a taste standpoint. Um, but no, I mean, it's just like UFOs. People say, "Oh, why aren't there more UFOs?" There's a ton of sightings on a regular basis, and our government records many of them. And I mean, they're in our faces constantly. We just continue to ignore it. And like I said, the lizard people thing that's gone back thousands of years. You look at these different carvings, and they've got these lizard people there. We just dismiss it all, saying, "Oh, they're just making up things." And
So I guess their population, like what do we have? It's documented 7 billion people or something like that on are
Yeah,
humans
we actually
on
have
this
well
world.
over 8 billion now.
Yeah, so when you're talking about other races such as the Pleiades or reptilians or whoever else, they're probably nothing even. I don't know what their population is, but it's probably not 8 billion, because if it was
I don't
eight
know what it
billion,
is either, but it's, obviously we are the dominant species here. I mean, they
yeah.
send some ships here and some scientific groups, but and who knows, there might be plans for some sort of assimilation eventually, but I don't know.
Yeah, I wonder if that's part of the explanation is why, as to why we don't really see them as much. Or, yeah,
They're hostile. You don't want to see those things. The Palladians or whatever, they're not hostile, but it's a lot of our governments, including the U.S. government, have made deals with these people that they have to keep a low profile.
oh,
We're worried that they'll lose their power because right now, we claim to have all the power and our leaders have all the power and they can do whatever they want. But if all of a sudden there's this other power or powers out there, it undercuts them. It has to undercut them because people will start being, I don't care about this government of ours. Let me find out more about these aliens and what they do and what they're all about and what they think.
huh.
And that's not what the leaders want.
Yeah, but wouldn't you think the Pleiades, they're such a kind and benevolent race that they'd be like, forget your little two-timing, backstabbing, corrupt deals, and we're just going to go be transparent with everybody. You know
Also,
what I mean?
they're respectful too, though. This isn't their planet. And so, from their standpoint, they're talking with leaders of ours, and the leaders are saying, oh, these people aren't ready yet. They'll panic and what have you. So,
Huh,
they're relying on our leaders to clue them in. I mean, they're sensitive about the fact that this is not their planet. They're here to help, but they're not here to force help. And so they're careful, and
huh,
they're not going to necessarily cross our governments and risk starting something. Uh,
huh. Man, interesting stuff out there, huh? Huh. Um, whew. The interview with the Archangel Raphael, I listened to that one a couple of times. That one was pretty powerful.
that one bothered some people.
Oh,
Um,
it bothered people?
yeah,
What?
because they've got this image, and all I can say is that the Angels have excellent PR. Because listen, first of all, there's very different. I mean, guardian angels, they tend to be they're not as powerful, and they tend to be they're not close, but they guard you, and they tend to look upon you in a fatherly kind of way. But the archangels, from my limited experience, is they're very powerful beings that don't necessarily see us as co-equals. And that's all there is to it. And, I know people told you nice stories when you were a kid or something about the angels and whatever, but all I can do is show what I experienced. And I thought he was a little superior. And in any case, he probably is superior. So maybe he has every right to act superior. I don't know. I know it's not up to me to tell him to do something different. I can tell you that much. Uh,
Yeah.
so, I guess it's just some people just thought he should be, more Care Bear cuddly than he was. And I'm like, I'm sorry, dude. It was what it was.
Yeah,
A lot of
just
them say he's a Care Bear because he wasn't.
yeah. And then didn't you ask if he gets bored or something and he didn't like that?
Yeah, well, I was kind of getting pissed off a little bit at him. So I figured I'd throw that out there to see what he would do. He got pissed off, but luckily it wasn't enough. Because
Yeah.
I was on my own then. My angel told me there's nothing he could do, that he couldn't help me with this one.
Oh, really?
This is like a superior, this is like let's say my angel guide's like a captain, maybe a major, but this guy's like a general of the army kind of thing. So, there's a big difference in rank. So,
Would you say that was the
so
most highest rank encounter that you had with any,
yeah, I'd say that if you want to put it that way. Yeah.
and you handled it pretty good?
I mean, I didn't get blasted, so I was happy with that.
Yeah, you made a friend.
Sure could have, I don't know about that. That would be a one-way friendship pretty much. Any more than you're friends with your pet flea, I guess.
Yeah, that was when you asked if he got bored. I don't know. Yeah, he didn't seem to like that.
No,
Or like it seemed
sorry,
to
a bit of a wise ass comment. See, the words don't convey what the telepathy did. There was a little bit of very mild contempt along with that thought, because I was testing him. I wanted to see if I could get a rise out of, because he was pissing me off a little bit. And it did get a rise out of him. So
only Rick would see if he can get a rise out of an archangel. Oh, Rick.
the worst
It's
happens lasts me, and then my troubles are over. So
there you go. Hey, and you already know how you're gonna move on. You already said, right? So
yeah.
that probably helps. Well,
Well,
no, because you said if you do something dumb.
yeah. Keep in mind that I still can change my fate. I mean, I can walk out in the middle of the road with a tractor trailer bearing down on me, and when it hits, I'm gonna die. Okay,
Yeah,
that's all there is to it. But,
yeah.
So, I mean, I could still change things. I still have power to do that, for instance. But the thing is it consumes me, and this consumed me as a kid too, reading all the Greek tragedies and the tragedy of Oedipus Rex, where he was told, or his parents were told when he was a baby, that he would grow up to kill his father and marry his mother. And so they're like, oh, we have to avoid this fate, and so his mother casts him adrift, in some little boat or whatever it was. And then, of course, it drifts and it's discovered by another kingdom, and he's adopted, and he rises to be king of that kingdom, and they declare war on the other kingdom, and he goes there and kills his father, and to secure his rule, he did what everybody did back in those days. He married the queen, who just happened to be his mother, although you didn't know that at the time. So the more they tried to escape their fate, the more they brought it to fore. And so I think about that when I think about what I saw. It's what do I do? Do I try to avoid it? And if I try to avoid it, am I actually making it happen?
Yeah, yeah. So it's like you might as well just go full force on.
Yes, I don't worry about it. I mean,
Um,
I'm not afraid of death. I mean, I don't want to experience a lot of pain if I can avoid it. But I'm not afraid of it. So, you know,
which comes with astral projection, right?
it
I,
should. I mean, if you can see that you exist outside of your physical body, then that should tell you something. It should tell you that you do have an existence separate from that physical body. The physical body is it's like a car. You buy a car, you drive it around for a while. When you're done with it, you abandon it and go off and maybe get you another car. Uh,
yeah,
but that's the truth of it. So what the fear comes from your ego. The ego is what gets you around in this life. I mean, you need one, unless you're going to be some monk somewhere in a mountain. You're going to need it to get through life. The thing is you just have to make sure that you control your ego and not the reverse. And as long as you can do that, and then keep in mind what your true missions are. It's not to accumulate wealth. It's to help others to achieve their goals, both here and spiritually.
yeah, yeah. Yeah. If everybody could adopt that, I think it'd be a very nice world, huh? Well, Rick,
I'm going to call it a day.
yeah, yeah, it's just, this was great. This was an awesome talk, Rick. I appreciate you so much for coming on and talking.
No problem.
I
Next
appreciate it.
time, we'll make sure the patrons come in.
Yeah, yeah. Sorry about that. That was my bad. That was my bad.
I'm gonna have to,
Um,
but it's okay. You're gonna let me know when the episode's airing, right? So that I can
yeah.
connect them to it. And
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I'll upload it and all of that. I'll leave all of your
I don't
information
know if
in
I'm
the
gonna carve it up or not. I mean, we went for a few hours here. It's up to you.
Yeah, maybe I'll do some highlights. I made some shorts, some little like YouTube shorts of our conversation last time, which were pretty cool. So maybe I'll do that. I'll make a bunch of those with this as well as posting the entire thing.
What do you want to do?
Um, yeah, so Rick, and I'll also leave in the description all of your information, your Patreon and also your channel and everything like that.
Okay, sure. Thanks.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. Are there any you know how you asked Hecate if there are any words of advice for those who are walking the line of a human? What do you have, Rick, for all of the listeners out there?
Don't be afraid. Fear is nothing but an illusion. You cannot be harmed. That which is eternal cannot be harmed. Go forth boldly, achieve your goals, help others to achieve their goals too. And together as a species, we'll be able to move up and have other challenges other than just the physical ones.
Definitely. That was perfect, Rick. Thank you so much for that. You're yeah, you're the man. I appreciate you. We the astral projection community appreciate you so much. So keep doing what you're doing. You have so much support. And yeah, hopefully we'll talk again soon. And you'll be seeing my comments all over the place too in all your videos. So I'll talk to you soon, Rick. Thank you so much.
Okay, bye bye now, Nick.
All right. See you.